On episode 377 of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we meet Ashley Boudet and discuss her book, The Ultimate Age-Defying Plan. You can find the full show notes for this episode at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/377. Have you decided you're ready to make a change? To reclaim your health and fitness? The 40 Plus Fitness Podcast is here for you. I'm your host, Alan Meisner. I'm an NSAM certified personal trainer with a specialization in corrective exercise and fitness nutrition. Let me be your coach as you find your way on your health and fitness journey. All right, let's go. Before we get started today, I wanted to take just a moment to reach out to you and offer this special invitation. I'm opening up my calendar to give you a free 15-minute consult. During this consult, there's no obligation. I'm there to help you reach your health and wellness goals. So we'll talk about the things that are getting you stuck. We'll come up with strategies that will help you be more successful. And we'll look for those little things that you might be missing on your wellness journey. So if you're ready to do something special before the summer, go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/15min. So 15 min. That's 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/15min. And I'll be sure to have that link in the show notes. So do go to the show notes if you forget this, but it'll be out there. A free 15-minute consult with me, the same kind of consult that I would normally have with my clients. This one's going to be for you absolutely free. Go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/15min. Thank you. Our guest today is a graduate of the National University of Natural Medicine, one of the world's most respected naturopathic medical schools. She's on the board of the International Congress of Naturopathic Medicine and is passionate about sharing ways of incorporating simple and powerful self-care practices into our lives. Today, we're going to be talking about her book, The Ultimate Age-Defying Plan. With no further ado, here's Ashley Boudet. Ashley, welcome to 40 Plus Fitness.
Hi, Alan. Thank you for having me.
Today we're going to talk about your book, The Ultimate Age-Defying Plan, the plant-based way to stay mentally sharp and physically fit. And I can say, as I have celebrated my 53rd birthday this year, that term age-defying starts to resonate with me as I'm kind of turning on to what I would call the second half of life. Age-defying is well, it's pretty darn important.
Yeah. Well, you're pretty young. But yeah, I think what inspired this book, and it's been so much fun writing the book and also learning, and it's a little bit of a relief, I think, to learn that there are things that we can do to stay young. And so for me, and a lot of people look at me and they're like, what do you know about aging? But I thought turning 40 would be a big deal. And I think that even though I try to ignore age, it doesn't really matter that much. There was something about it few years ago that was like, what's going to happen? I thought it would be something big or a big change in it. It really wasn't. And I think my fabulous co-author and I would both agree that we both have felt better, in the later, 40s and 50s and on than ever. And so it's kind of turned into an opportunity in a way. And, sometimes eating well and exercising and all of those things come easier when a person is younger, and they sort of have a different meaning when you get a little bit older. It's more of an opportunity, and what I call it is self-care. So, we talk about this a lot in some of our classes, that the way we really do see the future of medicine is self-care, is learning to take care of yourself and like bringing the power back. And that also includes cooking.
Well, and that's what I really like is your book's unique in the perspective of I've seen doctors that have brought in folks to write recipes for them before, but this is a book that you could just naturally tell the book knew what the recipes were because they'd eaten it. and,
yes.
and so it was really almost, I'm not going to say a love of food, but it really kind of talked about how, you can use food to nourish your body. And we're going to talk about that acronym in a minute, but that food's a big, big part of that. In fact, the first part of it. And, but it was, as you were going through the book, it was telling you, if you're looking at this kind of stuff and you want to get these nutrients here's the recipes, here's the page numbers, go after it. And I just thought that was really, really cool because it was, while it wasn't necessarily a prescription, it was empowering someone, like you said, to do self-care.
Exactly. Yeah. So, as a naturopathic doctor, I've many times, and even in my early training, would give people lists of things that you should eat, or, ways that you should eat, or things that could help to support your body. But I learned that actually knowing what to do with those foods was so huge. I mean, some people had no idea, how do I even make a food taste good? And Mark calls it, what he does, food activism. So he's been in this vegan chef world for a long time. And he's very clear that it has to taste good for anybody to
Yeah.
even try it, to even, begin to bring vegetables into their life on a regular basis. So what we also do are classes, and we wanted this book to be similar to that, where it's bringing up the experience of the food and the experience of how these things are medicines and how they work in our body.
Yeah, because I was looking at something as simple as wanting to get more dandelion root into my diet and saying, okay, well, it looks different. It doesn't look like all the other lettuce and stuff that I would normally eat in a salad.
Right.
How do I put it in there and make it a normal part? And some of that I found is it works really well with smoothies. It also works very, very well with a salad, but it is a little intimidating when you're looking at particularly a vegetable that you've never cooked with before and said, okay, here's this big purple eggplant. What do I do with it now? And there's some
Exactly.
recipes in the book that will actually help me do that.
Yes, exactly. And we like to encourage people to use these recipes as what Mark calls a template. So to try this recipe and then to begin to get more creative and to bring in another food, like, if you're doing a green salad or something with greens, like how can I make this work with dandelion? And just to start experimenting more, but to kind of give you a place to start
Yeah.
so that you can then have years and years of recipes that you can just come up with yourself.
And there's 175 plus of them in this book. So this
Right.
is a really good start for anyone that does want to either go plant-based or at least make sure they're getting more plants in their diet, because I think that's important for all of us.
Yes.
You have an acronym in the book that I really like. I tend to go towards numbers and acronyms. It's I don't know, it's just something I love.
Me too.
But you have a really cool acronym, Nourish. Do you mind kind of going through each of those pieces and what they mean for us?
Sure. So I love the word nourish itself because I feel like it's a very rich word. It kind of invokes the idea of really taking care of yourself. And so we like to simplify things. The book has 7 ingredients or less. We want to make things really easy and doable for people. At the same time, the information and what the idea of this age-defying plan, we want to keep it as simple as possible and to look at the things that we do every day that we feel like can be the most powerful and healing. So Nourish is pretty easy to remember. So I'll go through them quickly. So N is nutrition, right? The basic nutrients that we need for our body to work. O is oxytocin, and I love that. So oxytocin, not a lot of people know what that is, but it is what they call the happiness hormone. So there was a study not long ago that I think was pretty widespread out there that was talking about how hugging for, I think it was 20 seconds or something, like a long hug, actually would increase the levels of this pleasure or calming hormone in your body. So there are so many things that also will increase oxytocin. This was one of the first actual studies that looked at the blood levels of the hormone, but anything that makes you feel good. So I put oxytocin in there, and that can be being outside, that can be talking to a friend, even eating a really delicious meal, and just laughing, things like that. So that's the O. Use it or lose it is all about using your brain and your body in the way that they want to be used. So challenging yourself, getting rid of that idea that it's too late to try something new, or it's too late to, if maybe you thought you might want to do a triathlon, not that that's something that I would do, but use it or lose it, always moving your body, and never feeling like it's ever too late, and also challenging your mind as well. And we go into all of these in more detail in the book, obviously. So R is for relationship, and that is the importance of really nourishing your relationships and nourishing the idea of a connection to a community, to how we contribute to our community and how we share our stories with each other. And that can be very nourishing. I is for intention. And by this, we mean knowing what's important to you in life, having a vision for your life, and knowing what you value, and making choices from there. And then the last two, pretty obvious, but super important on the tops of my list really, are sleep and hydration. So, sleep, just the importance of giving your body that downtime to kind of shut down and to recuperate. In the book, I have some studies that are really interesting about how sleep helps us to detoxify as well. And then hydration, and this is simply getting enough water. This is something that I'm living in Colorado in a dry climate. I'm always having to remind people of, but really anybody can benefit from sometimes drinking a glass of water when they're looking and wondering, what's wrong with me? Why don't I feel well, in many different ways? Yeah. And also we talk about, with hydration, using water as medicine. So this can be, taking an herbal bath, or, jumping into a cool river and having our circulation react to that, and like really kind of awakening our nerves and our cells in that way. So those are the things that we have learned both separately and together over years that have really helped us to stay healthy, to, things that are important to do every day. So they seem very simple, and they're actually very powerful to us. So
and you put a lot of good detail in the book on each and every one of these of, here's some considerations, here's some things you can do to get this. And so I really appreciated that this was not just here's the acronym and then, go do these things. You actually provide a lot of guidance in the book on exactly how to do those things.
Right. So we wanted it to be something simple that didn't feel too overwhelming for people. They can always we also have a 1-page on Nourish, so that we were hoping that could be something people could take with them or at the gym or something, just to kind of remind themselves of what all of these things mean.
Yeah. Now, one thing that I have not really talked about a lot on the show, and it was kind of surprising because this is episode 377, we've never really talked about kidney and urinary tract health. And I thought it was, as I was reading your book, and I was like, oh, here's a section on that. And I was like, 377 episodes or 376 episodes leading up to this, we haven't had this conversation. So I was really glad that you got into it. The kidneys, they obviously, we all know that they filter our blood. Mm-hmm. We know that if someone gets diabetes, over time, they're very likely to cause damage to their kidneys and perhaps need dialysis. Dialysis shops are popping up all over the country, pretty much faster than weight loss clinics are. It's just surprising to me how many there are now. We are not taking good care of our kidneys. Right.
Well, and I wanted to put this in the book, and it's kind of a small section in the book. I think from the naturopathic perspective, it's less strange to talk about the kidneys as really important organs of elimination and balance in our body. And even if you look at Chinese medicine, the kidneys are central to health. And something that's always looked at and addressed, kind of in a different way in Chinese medicine. But I just wanted to see what people are dealing with when they're aging. And surprisingly, chronic kidney disease was one of the top 10. This was from the Council on Aging. I looked at the top 10 things that that a lot of people are dealing with aging. And kidney was number 6, so it was right up there with heart disease and diabetes. And it's because it's connected to all of these things. So I just, in addition, all of these things that we can do every day, like drinking enough water and nourishing our bodies and our cells and exercising, all of these things are going to help to support our kidneys as well. So the idea that I like for people to keep in mind is it's really scary to think of kidney disease. And I'm not trying to minimize when someone has a very serious kidney disease, but all of these things that we do every day are also protecting our kidneys.
So even in many cases, kidney disease is also a lifestyle disease.
Right.
Okay. Now, I am someone who enjoys cooking. I probably don't cook enough meals on my own, but I think, as this is going on now and I'm down here in Panama, I'm going to, obviously cook more, primarily because there's just not a huge number of restaurants within the distance. And I would get very, very bored eating at the same ones all the time. So I do tend to cook the majority of my meals. And I do recognize that one of the cool things about that is I actually now know what I'm putting in my mouth. So there's no extra this or that getting snuck in there that I don't want in my body. Can you talk about some of the value of when we cook our own meals? What does that do for us?
Oh, so yeah, it's huge. So so Mark has been teaching cooking classes for many years, and around the same time that I was doing my clinicals and learning and, telling people about nutrition and learning everything about nutrition was when I realized people need to learn to cook. I need to learn to cook. So I started, and honestly, when I was in school and in a doctoral program and was, more stressed out, what really brought me to health, one of the main things was learning or taking the time to cook for myself. And it turned into just really my time. So when we teach classes, I try to invite people to bring in all of their senses, as we're starting to saute the onions, to like really smell those foods. And when we're talking about which herbs we're using, to smell those as well, and to look at them and, to maybe even get a little bit more quiet and think about where these foods came from. So using all of our senses and using kind of all levels of experiencing that food is something that you can't get when you just go and get takeout food or go to a restaurant. And some people talk about the prana in a food, and the prana is a very real thing. It's, the energy, and you could say the love that someone puts into the food. And that actually helps us with digestion and really contributes to our health as well.
Yeah, what I found is that I get a lot of pleasure out of going to a local market, a farmer's market, and literally sitting there with the person that grew the plant, and just asking them about how they grow this, and you start seeing them just light up. That I think they get more joy out of being a farmer at a farmer's market than they make profit selling at a farmer's market, because the food's cheaper and better there. But that they picked this morning. They got up at 6 o'clock in the morning to make the 7 o'clock, or 7:30 farmer's market time. And so they got up, it's daylight. They picked it. It's sitting right there. You can take that and you take that home, rinse it off, and that becomes part of your dinner that night. To me, that's so fulfilling to know that they just literally, this was a growing plant this morning and it's on my plate tonight.
Right. Isn't that beautiful? It's just, our connection to nature. Food is our medicine.
Yeah, and it didn't fly in from Chile. Not that there's anything wrong with Chile, but that's a long
trip to get there, right?
Yeah, so the organic, locally grown produce is going to provide you better nutrition, and you're going to feel better about it when you're helping out a local farmer with that purchase. A lot of times when I'm talking to folks and they're saying, really struggle to cook for myself because I just don't have enough time, or this doesn't work out for me. I go in my refrigerator and there's nothing there. Can you give us some tricks? I know in the book you had 7 for meal prep and making it a snap.
Oh, yes. Okay. And this is very important because, it doesn't matter what someone else thinks you should do. You have to do whatever is going to work in your life. So we're all busy, and, life kind of keeps us going and going. So one is to think of it as something that you're doing for yourself. So back to that Nourish. And I could go through the 7 from the basic cooking technique section, but, it has to taste good, right? And be easy and be something that you enjoy. So this should be an experience that you enjoy. So some of the quick things that you can do to make sure that you're prepared for having that good experience and it not being a stressful experience, are to prepare ahead of time, of course. So, we suggest maybe taking a weekend day and in a relaxing way to kind of plan out a menu for the week and kind of think about where you need to get these foods and what you need for that week and get that ready. And then preparing ahead of time, and also creating an organized space. So, maybe Marie Kondo can help. I know everybody's talking about her these days, but really having a Zen space is what Mark says helps so much to be able to make those meals more quickly and to have the preparation process be much more enjoyable. So having a place for everything, knowing where to find what you need, and then planning ahead with some of the simple things that you can do to bring in both flavor and nutrition. So we have a few also recipes in the book on making spice blends. So the idea is that you can have different dried spices that you can blend together. And so you can, say you can put together like parsley and basil and oregano and, some other herbs and make like an Italian blend. So we're going to have Italian night, or you can put together certain herbs, cayenne, and that can be more like a Mexican flavor or an Indian flavor. And so you can have those at your hand. And that way you can feel like you're being more creative, but it's also not too much work to have to do. And then another thing is, and this is something big that Mark teaches in all of his classes, is the idea of the template. So what the first meal, or, some people say like, what's like a go-to meal? And that's to get nutrition and to also have it be interesting and delicious, would be what he calls the monk bowl. So it's the idea of a bowl that has a nice balance. So a grain, a green, and a protein. So the grain could be quinoa or rice, or even like rice noodles or pasta. And then the green just means any veggies. So you want to go crazy on the veggies and have all the different colors that you can imagine, not just green. And then the protein, which can be for a vegan diet, something a simple, like quick roasted tempeh or tofu, or you can do lentils or beans or something that you can either do in a quick cooker, or even like a can or something like that if you're in a hurry. And then when you have that base, then you can add extra things. And the things that we like to add are some toasted seeds or avocado or something raw, like some raw greens on top, or even sauerkraut or something like that. And so we always have, those are pretty simple things that you can have in your pantry or in your fridge all the time. And then in a few minutes, you can create a really delicious, really nutritious meal that's really not the same as one that you've ever had before, because you can mix and match all these ingredients.
Yeah, I liked all of that, because just something like the salad in a jar concept to me was like, that's great, because you could set that up the night before. In the morning when you get ready, you go. And so maybe you had the salad for dinner, you had the extra that you put in that jar, and that's your lunch, and you're set. Now, the one that hit me in the heart, my wife, if she does listen to this episode, she'll understand. But I'm gonna try. Is that I just mess up so many dishes when I'm cooking, because as a cook with this. But you guys had the tip in there, and I try to use the same pan for more than one thing, and a lot of the recipes do exactly that. So I thought that was pretty cool, because I was like, I'll go make something, and then there'll be 15 pans and all kinds of forks and spoons and all that dirty. But it got me to thinking, I am spending time washing these dishes. And in some cases, my wife steps in and does that since I did the cooking. But, it is time consuming. And so there are things that we can just naturally look to and say, this is going to reduce the amount of time. So if time is the issue, you can remove that issue.
Right. And then you can, on other days when you have a little bit more time, you can just make the big mess in the kitchen and just make it your art space and go crazy. But on a regular day to day, to make sure that this can really be a part of your life and not something that you just do every now and then. That's the person that we were thinking of in this book. And how can we make this as easy as possible?
Yeah. So. And I like that a lot of the recipes can be batch cooked or batch prepared, so that, like you, particularly with the spice blends, I had never thought of that. My wife thinks I have a spice fetish. So when we did the move to Panama, I had to, I'm throwing out all these spices, or giving all these spices away, because I collect spices, because I think they make the meals delicious. And so as I'm down here in Panama, I have less selection, but I'm making it work. Now, Ashley, I define wellness as being the healthiest, fittest, and happiest you can be. What are 3 strategies or tactics to get and stay well?
Well, okay, I like that too. I like to break it down to simple. So, three things. I'm going to go back to nourish, and I would say nourish your body, one. So, this is food, water, movement, challenging, all the things that we talked about. Nourish your mind. So, your brain, your emotional body, finding joy, quiet, spending time in nature, and then nourish your connections. So, nourish your body, nourish your mind, and nourish your connections. And that's your connection to family and friends, community, maybe your connection to greater, to all beings that live, and even maybe extending beyond to something greater than yourself, because that's where we can answer, why am I doing all this stuff in the first place? So,
Those were
find.
wonderful. Those were wonderful. Thank you. If someone wanted to learn more about you and Mark, learn more about the book, where would you like for me to send them?
Well, so our Mark and I together is Doctor and Chef. So our website is drandchef.com. And on that website, you can find where to find the book, more information about the book, and we have some resources that are downloads and different information on certain topics that we talk about in the book that we go more in depth on.
Yeah, I like that there were a good many links to the resources section to dive deeper. The book's a great resource in and of itself, but you have some add-ons that they can go find. So the name of the book is The Ultimate Age-Defying Plan. And you can find the links to all of that at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/377. So Ashley, thank you so much for being a part of 40 Plus Fitness.
Thank you. It was great chatting with you.
I really love having conversations with folks like Ashley where they're stretching me to learn new things, to focus on things maybe a different way. And it's always great to get guests on the show that teach me something. And so I've really enjoyed this journey of podcasting where I've been able to read all of these great books and have some really cool conversations. And one of the ways I think I can help you is by sharing that with you. If you find yourself stuck, you just want kind of a boost to make your summer awesome, let's get on the phone. I'm offering a free 15-minute consult. You go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/15min, and that will take you to my Calendly calendar. There you can book a time, and we can get on a phone. It's a Zoom conference line, really easy, just you and I. 15 minutes, and we're going to set some strategies. We're going to go over goals, and I'm going to help you make this fitness journey much, much better. So go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/15min. That's 15 min. 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/15min. Thank you. Next time on the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we meet Dr. Joseph Arnold and discuss his book, American Diet Revolution. Until then, have a happy and healthy day.